we are creators as humans.
Absolutely.
We can create our realities, we can create so much around us. And, sometimes we forget that because life feels like it's happening to us. But we actually have the power to create. And that comes a lot from your sacral because it's got to do with creative energy. Yeah, the sacral has got to do with expressing your creativity, your creative aspect of yourself. Everybody is creative. And that's something that, I didn't know before. I used to think that everybody else was creative and I wasn't. And it wasn't until the last couple of years I started creating things. I was like, oh, I'm actually very creative.
This podcast is part of the GK Media Studios Creators Network, helping people tell their stories. Become a storyteller today and learn about our podcaster network at gkmediastudios.com.
Here we are. Welcome to the show. We have here Lorraine Lynch. Lorraine is to me a dear friend. Lorraine was there for me in a tough time 18 months ago or something like that.
Yeah.
Our paths crossed and I'm very grateful for that. Welcome to the show and let people know what you are doing and who you are.
Well, thank you, Smaranda. Thank you for the lovely introduction. So my name is Lorraine Lynch, and I am a Reiki master and a coaching master as well. So I am working in Limerick and I have my own business, Living Reiki Coaching. It's about 2 years now that I have my business. And I suppose it might be good for me to explain a little bit about what Reiki is, just because a lot of people don't know what it is.
Okay, before we are going in that direction, I want you to tell people why this path chose you.
That's a good way to put it, because that is actually what happened. So for me, I've always been a kind of person that would go a little bit against the grain. So I've never really followed the traditional path. So when I left school, I actually went to work on cruise ships. And that was at the age of 20. And I kind of moved away on my own. And then after that, I ended up at the age of 23, I ended up getting engaged.
Wow, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that about me. So I got engaged, but the relationship was quite controlling. And this actually sent me in a new direction.
How old were you?
23.
23, so young.
Yeah, I was very young. So after that, I went into a bad place. And because the relationship was very controlling and I was really scared of the person. And so then after that, I decided, thank you. And so after that, I went to counseling. And the time I went to counseling, I was told you should meditate. So I started meditating and I went for my first Reiki session.
Wow.
And I remember at the time I started feeling all these things in my body and I was like, what is this? And nobody around me knew about any of that stuff at that time. Nobody knew anything about meditation, anything about anything spiritual. And I just started following it.
I relate. Thank you so much for saying that, because I relate to that on my own journey. And when I started to feel weird, that I am thinking weird, I'm looking to understand causes of what happens to me.
Yeah.
I felt like, who am I going to ask those things? Who am I going to find answers for my questions? And I relate to that. It's so important to create that system. But I think the answer comes when the question comes up.
Yeah.
The universe brings an answer. So first
100%.
comes the question and then comes the answer.
100%. And that's something as well that I'd also like to mention that, I decided at that time, I was like, I want to be one of those people. Like, I want to be that Reiki person, or that I used to listen to a lot of motivational speakers and I was like, I want to be one of those people. And then I went on this big journey. And it's not until now that I've realized that the universe sent me on that journey because I asked to be one of those people. And now I am one of those people. So it's fascinating how it works out. But you do get what you ask for, but it might not come in the way you expect.
Yes, that's very important. Yeah, and very interesting.
Yeah, and you will be kind of molded into being the person that you've wanted to be. You won't be able to, they say you can't get there from there. I couldn't be this person back 10 years ago. I had to go through the process of learning all these different things.
And I think if you miss the process, if you are looking back to something and you see, okay, if I wouldn't gone to draw those events or challenges, I wouldn't be the person who I am now.
Not at all. I'm actually very grateful now because, that happened 10 years ago, but I started on my spiritual path, but I wasn't really fully choosing it at the beginning. And I was still living in a lot of old patterns and old ways of doing things. And I was half choosing it and half not. And that sent me through more challenges until it was really 5 years ago that everything fell apart for me. And I went to the real rock bottom. And that was when I really chose the path.
Yes.
It was like, now is my time. Now I got to choose it. And then I went from there. But I'm really grateful for that because I wouldn't have chosen it unless those things happened.
Yeah. When you say 5 years ago, when was my rock bottom, are you comfortable to tell us a little bit more about it? If you are,
of course,
probably, because I'm thinking probably people are going through the same or similar experiences, and they might hear you and they might relate, and what you're saying, it can help them.
Oh, definitely, 100%. I'm actually very happy to share it because now I'm like in a place where I understand it all, so I feel I'm able to share it. So basically, what happened was 10 years ago, I had been in that relationship, and then I went to counselling, but they never went to the depth of why these things had happened. It was just kind of like we dealt with like surface level. And so then I continued the same patterns, I continued the same cycles, and I got into more manipulative relationships, controlling relationships, narcissistic, abusive relationships. And I just continued that cycle. And it was quite dark, like, because I kept thinking there's something wrong with me. I was gaslit a lot, that gaslighting is when somebody kind of tricks you and your sense of reality, where they make you think that what you're seeing is not real. So I lost a lot of trust in myself. And so it's quite intense. A lot of things happened. So I was in a place where I lost myself. And I had a trauma response in 2019 where I just left my body and everything went numb. Yeah, and that was a really tough time because everything just went completely numb and I didn't feel anything anymore. I couldn't even listen to music. I couldn't watch TV. I just was numb. And I couldn't understand how this had happened. Like, how did I go from being one person to being a completely different person? And it was quite scary. And at the time, it was like everything started falling apart. I was in a huge amount of debt. And I was in all these relationships. I was hanging out with people who probably weren't the best for me. I was choosing partying over meditating, And I was always kind of running away from my problems instead of dealing with them. I was in denial. I saw the other day this acronym for denial is don't even know that I'm lying.
Wow. Say that again.
Denial, the acronym is I don't even know that I'm lying.
Oh, yes.
Except the N is replaced with a K. Or the K is replaced with an N for a no. But
interesting view. Yeah.
So I was kind of denying all of the things that were going wrong and hoping that it would all just work out. Because I was spiritual, but I wasn't really understanding a lot of depth to it at that stage. And so, everything kind of fell apart. I lost my job at the time and then COVID happened. And so then I had nothing. I moved home in the middle of COVID, had my 30th birthday. I had no friends because I had all my friends were kind of, away with my ex and, taking his story, side of the story.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I started from scratch. I had no money. I didn't go to college when I left school. I had gone to beauty college and I had worked on cruise ships and I always worked in service jobs. So I never actually had a degree. So I was there and I was like, well, I don't have a degree. I don't have any money. I don't have any friends anymore. I don't have anything. And I have a load of debt and I don't know what to do. And it was that moment that I came home and it was like everything just started working the second I came home. It just started working out. And then I found a coaching course. And I decided it's time, I want to do this. So I started studying and I started working on myself. And I've been working on myself ever since then. And, for a long time, I wasn't really sure if it was ever going to work out. It felt like nothing was working. But now I've really got to a point where I'm like, oh,
it's working.
Work.
Yeah,
it does.
There is no one episode where I don't have the chance to say when things are going very bad, we have the tendency to catastrophize and to feel like, oh my God, this has happened to me and the world is falling apart and all that. And it's actually the gate towards something much better.
And it was a redirection.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because now when I look back, it's like, oh, I was being shown this is not where you're meant to be.
Yeah.
You're meant to be somewhere else, and we're taking you in the direction where you're meant to be. And now when I look back, it makes sense. But it doesn't make sense when you're in the process.
Totally. And it's just because it's new.
Yeah.
And that's when our nervous system and our body freaks out because it's new.
Yeah.
And we get into that state of freezing and disconnection.
Oh, yeah.
And then we don't know what to do with ourselves. So what would your new self, new Lorraine, what would you say to you past 5 years ago?
Well, I would definitely say, first of all, a huge thing that I've learned is that things don't just happen overnight. You know, we're very much in a phase nowadays where everything happens now. You know, Amazon, Netflix, everything is right now. So we kind of have such an expectation of ourselves for things to happen right now. So I think, you know, trusting the process, knowing that there's a reason for everything, you know, all of the experiences that I've gone through, even in the last couple of years, it might have seemed like a challenge, but there was a purpose for it. And it taught me something that I needed to know for what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So there is definitely a purpose to everything. And it sounds very cliche, but you need to trust the timing of your life, you know?
And I think we lost that. When I say we lost, I'm thinking of ancestrals, because we definitely lost that seasonal part of us.
Yeah.
And time was slow, and we were waiting for the fruits and vegetables to grow. We were waiting for winter to go to, like, I'm coming from 4 seasons, clear defined seasons, and was every season with something. Now it's everything, as you say. You can have in an instant.
Yeah. Instant gratification. And I always lived on instant gratification. Yeah. That's how I got myself into debt at the time. By the way, I also cleared that this year.
Well done, you.
Thank you. It is possible. Yeah. And I think also something to remember is that whatever is going on in your life, it's there for a reason, and you can overcome it, because that's why it's happening, you know?
Yeah.
You know, they say that old saying, like, you know, God will only give you what you can handle. And I really do believe that, because it's just an opportunity to show you the strength that you do have. And you can have that if you choose it.
Exactly.
I think everybody has that.
Yes, exactly. So you said that you used to go to counseling. And from what you were telling me, I gathered that you sensed that was missing something.
Yeah, so that was the first time I went to counseling. That was a long time ago. But what I will also say is that I wouldn't put that as all counseling. I think, you know, you need to go to different people, because some people can only take you as far as they are themselves. If they haven't gone to do that inner work, they're not going to be able to show you how to do it, because they haven't done it.
Yes.
You know, and
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So don't give up after the first attempt if you feel like it's not working for you.
Yeah.
Keep searching.
And it's also important to realize that, you know, through your journey of growth, you will meet different people. I remember they would always say, you know, when the student is ready, the master appears. And I used to get angry, like, where's my master? You know, there hasn't been one master. I've had different people along the way who were there, and they guided me to a certain point. And then all of a sudden somebody new appeared, and then they were at a different level where they showed me something else. So I think it's not always about sticking to one person. And even when people want to come to me, I say, like, let's see how we get along together.
Exactly.
And if you need to go somewhere else, I'll point you in the right direction
100%.
as well. Because it's not just me who knows things. There's many other people who have other perspectives and other expertise.
Yes, exactly. And in the coaching relationship, it's very important how we relate to each other as a coach and client.
Definitely.
And also if we can build that safety and trust between ourselves, because you can have the best knowledge and the best tools, but if you can make that bond with the client, it's not going to work.
Exactly. And that's the most important thing, because if you don't feel safe and you don't trust the person, then you're not going to be able to grow through that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are a Reiki master.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
So Reiki is energy healing. So what that means is you're working with energy. And when we talk about energy, everything is made of energy, including us. So you've probably heard of people having an aura. So the aura is your energy field around outside of you. Sometimes when you meet people, sometimes, just say, for example, you're in a room and you feel somebody looking at you, but you didn't see them, but you can feel it. You're feeling their energy. Sometimes you can feel somebody when they're standing too close to you. You're like, oh, you feel it, And so we all have energy. And what your energy is comprised of within your energy field is all got to do with your thoughts and emotions. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And then that's creating everything else. So inside in your aura, then there's the energy system, which is called the chakra system. And this is where there's 7 main chakras that you work with in Reiki, but there's hundreds of them in your body. You have them everywhere. We have them in our hands, we have them in our feet, but you've probably seen the 7 main ones that you see in...
They're most common ones, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, they're the main kind of ones that most people focus on in meditation, yoga. They're the biggest ones, I suppose. But we have them also outside of our body everywhere. But they're the ones that we would work on in Reiki. And so basically what happens is, if you imagine a way to describe it. So if you imagine a river, so a river is flowing. And then if you kept throwing a load of stuff like rubbish and gunk into the river, eventually it's going to get blocked up and the water won't be able to flow. It's going to get trapped and then it's not going to be flowing. It'll get stagnant. And then it gets like the water will go stagnant. There'll be flies on it. Very nasty image there. But so this is what our energy is like. So originally the energy should be coming down through our crown chakra on the top of our head, flowing down through our body and out through our feet and connecting us to the earth. But a lot of the time we have different things happen in our life and we get blockages throughout the system. So for example, stress, grief, anxiety, worrying, maybe if we're not eating good food, maybe if we're just overthinking everything. A lot of the time when people are overthinking, they're not wanting to feel what's in their body. And so what happens is a lot of the time we get emotions trapped in our body.
Yes.
And then when they're not released, we're carrying them around. And, over time, this can, you have lots of different experiences in your life and you think, this is who I am. This is the way things are meant to be for me. But the reality is it's just an accumulation of things that have happened. I had a lot of narcissistic relationships, for example. I kept repeating the same things and I was like, why does this keep happening? What is going on? And I thought, what's wrong with me? But there was nothing wrong with me. It was just that I had taken on these things and I was holding them in my body. And then it was affecting my energy. So then I kept attracting the same things. And the universe was showing me what was going on inside of me, but I didn't understand it. And so that's the same with all of us. We have different things going on and we just don't understand that it's actually just things trapped within us that are creating it more and more.
What prompted you to Reiki in your journey? Because I guess was an answer for you, was it?
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. So, when I was saying before I went for a Reiki session, I went to Janet and Angel Times in Limerick for my first Reiki session. And I remember, I just felt so much from it. And I just really felt like, wow, there's something about this that I just can't explain. It feels amazing. And I really want to know more about it. So I started learning about the chakras. And I remember at the time when I started learning about the chakras, it was like something that I already knew, but I'd forgotten it. It was really weird.
Wow.
It was really weird. It was kind of like when I was reading, I was like, obviously.
Yes,
I already knew that, but I didn't know it. So I've been told that I did it in a past life.
Hold on your idea there because it's so interesting. I love synchronicities. And one of my other guests said that our nervous system is thousands years old.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated. And I was like, wow, really? Why? And then we unpack that, and that's exactly an explanation, an example that your nervous system remembered something.
It did. And it's like my body had that intelligence. Like people ask me all the time, oh, why did you do this or why did you do that? Even when I'm teaching Reiki, it's kind of hard to explain why I'm doing certain things. My body knows what to do. And my mind doesn't know, but my body knows.
Yes.
Like my body knows to put my hand there or to do this. And I think we all have that untapped wisdom within us, in our bodies especially. There's a lot there that we're not aware of.
Can you explain what did you mean by my body remembered or my body remembers and my mind doesn't know? For me, it's clear. But I think for people what is she talking about? Like, what is this? And if you have an way to explain in your way, I trust that the divine will guide you in that direction. I think it's important to...
You're right. It's definitely important because I wouldn't have understood this before either. I was always a person that I was very much in my mind, in my head. Everything was logical. Like I needed to understand everything and it needed to be very structured. I was always like that. Like I was really a person that I want to see that for myself. I want to do that for myself. I want to learn everything and understand it. But as I've gone through my journey, I've really learned to tap more into my body as well, because my body holds a lot of wisdom. So what I will explain what I mean by that. So I went before for a healing session, just when you were saying before about the nervous system having things from the past. Or for thousands of years. I went for an IET healing session before, and while she was working on me, she told me that there was actually something from my past life within my body, that apparently I was drowned for being a witch in my past life. So I didn't know that, but I felt it come up. I felt this emotion, really deep emotion come up when she went through that. And then she told me what it was. And so that was one of my first introductions to this. Then another time, I was always a person, I would suppress my emotions. I never knew how to feel anything. This is why I would go into denial.
You didn't want to, or you didn't know how to?
I didn't know how to.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know how to. From a young age, I just started suppressing my emotions. I used to get a lot of problems with my throat, with my ears. I had like glandular fever, tonsillitis, all those things, because I was always suppressing everything. I would never kind of say what was going on. I didn't really know how to communicate it. And this is very common in Ireland, the amount of people that struggle with this.
Absolutely. I'm gobsmacked, because that was my main problem. Physical problem, tonsillitis and sinuses and all that. And I never, even now, until you said it,
wow,
I didn't resonate with that at all. And that was, I couldn't say, because I was raised up by a narcissistic parent. And I couldn't, like, it wasn't what I was allowed to as a child.
Yeah. And even now, like, even my parents, they're also in that generation where you don't talk about how you feel.
Yeah.
Even, with funerals, it's like nobody cries, nobody talks about it. It's very common. I talk about it with my clients all the time. It's in Ireland, there's a huge sense of shame around feeling emotions and actually having emotions. I always used to feel like a burden if I would have emotions, like it's too much.
Yeah.
So I would just stuff it inside because I didn't want to bother anybody. But that just ended up causing more problems because I had all this stuff.
It always does, yeah.
Exactly. And that's why when these things happened in my life, I didn't know how to deal with them because I didn't know how to express emotions. I didn't think I was allowed to. But this all comes back to... very controversial. It comes back to the church.
Yes, I know.
And, this thing about
you are not,
shame.
Feel free, because we are not judging here. And I'm praising myself being authentic and in integrity.
Yeah.
So if the church did a shitty job, the church did a shitty job. So, I mean, what I learned to be comfortable to call a spade a spade.
Yeah, it's true, though. It is true. And I see it even sometimes when I go to mass and I just listen to some of the things. I just feel like a lot of the stuff is very much misinterpreted and made into something to control people instead of liberate them. And
I felt that when I was 6.
Yeah,
and
wow.
In Orthodox Church is a little bit more rituals. So you might think of the Byzantine emperor and all that. So more in the priests are very dressed and all that, the icons on the walls and all that. Anyway, I go there and I was like very drawn to God, to direct interaction with God. And then I went there and I had to follow something very narrow. And I was 6 and I remember going in front of the altar and asking myself, why are those people doing those things? Like, I don't understand. Why they don't just communicate with God? And no one was there to explain.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask because I felt that I'm weird.
Do you know what? They wouldn't even be able to explain because they wouldn't know the answer either.
Yeah, and why are they repeating the same things? I felt empty words.
Oh, it's so empty. I feel that every time I go, it's just like this just monotonous something that you're meant to do rather than it actually having meaning.
And the relationship, I was looking for having a relationship with that God or divine, or because I was thinking, okay, I'm important enough. I had that sense when I was small. But of course, as you said, I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying those things, because probably there are people who are in the same and they never had the chance to hear that message before.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting how indoctrinated we've been,
Yeah.
and just even coming out of that is just a whole challenge in
I
itself.
stopped suppressing messages because I'm afraid that people will feel offended and whatever. I know I don't want to offend anyone in my teachings and but it's clear that I am here to speak out.
And to be a change maker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's never easy, really. It's never comfortable. It doesn't mean to be.
It's not.
It doesn't mean to be.
It's not comfortable at all. I've always been the black sheep of my family, and I always thought that there was something wrong with me. Why can't I just be normal? And it's not until recently I understood how powerful that is. How powerful it is to be able to do, even though nobody else agrees with it, and you just do it anyway.
I want to give you a big hug. It's a virtual because we are on the other two sides of the table, but I really want to give you a hug because I know exactly what you're saying, and I think that's why we are together.
100%.
Yeah,
So we both got curly hair.
Yes.
Okay. What I was going to say as well, just when we come back to the your body being powerful. So something that I learned, and this might help people, is that because I was always suppressing my emotions, what I started to do was I started to sit and ask my emotions to come up. And it's a little bit scary, when you haven't done that, but it is very powerful to sit and ask them, invite them to come up. And so when I started doing that, this is why I'm saying the body is so powerful, because when I started doing that, one time I was meditating, I was lying down, and then I just had this urge to sit up. So I sat up and my body just started swinging around in a circle. And I wasn't consciously doing this, but my body started doing it. And the emotion started coming up. And it was like this twisting motion that it was doing was helping me to let it out. But I didn't consciously know how to do it. My body knew what to do. I couldn't tell you how it happened. It just started doing it. And your body does do that. When animals, if they get hit or knocked, they shake everything off.
Yeah.
But as humans, we just curl up and we hold it. And it's like we hold on to things that way. But if we can move and get things out, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. So much wisdom there. I just take it in and then soak it. Can you go back to the chakras and describe a little bit about each of the chakras?
Yeah, of course. So the first one is the root. So this one is at the base of your spine. It's in what they call your perineum area. So when people sit with their legs crossed?
Yes.
The reason is because the root chakra is then touching the ground. So it's meant to connect us to the earth.
Okay.
So grounding us. So when I talk about grounding, a lot of people are like, what does that even mean?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So basically grounding is like when we're electrical systems. If you think about it, we're like computer systems. We've got programs going on in our brain. We've got the nervous system, which is this electricity flying around in our body. Like we have a lot of things firing and wiring all the time, even how your heart pumps and everything.
Yeah.
It's like an electrical system. So we need to be grounded. When a house is like earth, they have an earth wire to ground it into the earth. We're the same. And if we don't do that, we end up getting inflammation and different things inside our body, or we end up living up in our head and we're not in our body at all. We forget we even have a body. So grounding is very important. Years ago, they put plastic at the bottom of our shoes.
Yes.
And this is an insulator, so it stops us from being connected. So it's very important for us to take some time to actually connect to the earth, because we're from the earth, this thing that they used to say in the church, like ashes to ashes, dust to dust we shall return.
Yeah.
Because we are from the earth, and like we're the same as the animals, but we're just the ones who are conscious, And so the
We
root
are
chakra.
wild sometimes.
Yeah. So the root chakra is very important in that it's connecting you to the earth, but it's also got to do with feeling stable and financially stable and secure and safe in your life. So if you're not really in your body and grounded, you might be very much in your head and worried about everything and thinking and not
Yes.
feeling anything. So the root chakra is the first one connecting you. It's like the base of everything.
Because we did kind of a few workshops together and whatever. So what are the symptoms, if I can say the signs that the root chakra is blocked?
Well, first of all, they would have probably feeling like problems in their lower body and the lower back. You can get a lot of tension. So that's kind of like you feel like you're not supported in the world. Then there's also, you could be just very overwhelmed, very much in your head. You might be rushing all the time, feeling like there's so many things to do and busy. Like always thinking, overthinking, very stressed. Yeah, just really just being very much going all the time and not actually in the body. So when we talk about masculine and feminine energy, the feminine are the lower chakras, so they're related to the earth because the masculine is the universe up above you, the feminine is the earth. So so it's like it's more so about feeling and connecting and being in your body. So I'd say if you're not really in your body and you're very much busy all the time and working all the time and going and never taking a break, you probably aren't really in your root. Also, if you've got financial problems, a lot of the time, something very interesting is a lot of the time your body is talking to you as well. So you'll get pains in your body. A lot of the time your life will talk to you as well. I've had people who've had so many things happen with their car altogether. And when you look up the energy reason for it, it's always really related to what's going on in their life. So there's lots of different signs that you can definitely pick up on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Does that kind of answer?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Even though I knew some of them, it's still very it seems like I hear some of this, the way how you explain so clear.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Stick probably I'm in a different level of consciousness as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
Move up.
So the next one is the sacral. So I forgot to mention that the root was red.
Oh yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the next one is the sacral. So this one is in your lower belly. For women, it would be in the area of their womb. For men, it's more so in the area of the testes. So it's got to do with sexual energy, but it's also got to do with creative energy. And I always find this one kind of interesting. Maybe I'm weird, but I just thought it was interesting that it's like a man and a woman create a baby. So it's creation at its greatest form.
Yeah.
So like we are creators. As humans.
Absolutely.
We can create our realities, we can create so much around us. And, sometimes we forget that because life feels like it's happening to us. But we actually have the power to create. And that comes a lot from your sacral because it's got to do with creative energy. So when it's blocked, it sometimes can be that people have trapped emotions because it's related to your emotions as well. So if you have a lot of trapped emotions, for women, if they've got lots of trapped emotions in their womb, they would end up having really, really bad cramps and periods. It can also be related to the mother line. So it can be got to do with the feminine energy, the feminine wounds. So if you have a difficult relationship with your mother, it'll show up in your womb as well. And because it goes back in the whole generational thing. And so, the sacral has got to do with expressing your creativity, your creative aspect of yourself. Everybody is creative. And that's something that, I didn't know before. I used to think that everybody else was creative and I wasn't. And it wasn't until the last couple of years I started creating things. I was like, I'm actually very creative. But creativity comes in many forms. It's not just like painting a picture.
Yes.
It's creating a business, creative in how you dress, creative in how you speak, creative in how you come up with solutions, ideas. There's so many different ways you can be creative, even figuring things out,
Yeah, exactly. Tidying your bed, tidying your room. I remember when I started my healing journey, I listened to Louise Hay. And that's where I heard first that creativity is part of us. To be creative is a gift, what we all have in ourselves. And she was giving this example. You can't say that you are not creative. Are you doing your bed? Are you tidying up your room? Are you creating foods are you cooking? Yeah. That's creativity.
Do you arrange flowers? Like there's so many ways that you can be creative, even just how you decorate your home. Anything. There's so many ways. And I think we forget that because we kind of have a linear view.
But we create life. every moment.
We're creating life as well. But sometimes, you see, that can be a little bit difficult to understand if you're living in a life that you don't want to live. And that is, it can be, I remember I used to get really triggered by that. Like, how could I have created this, you know?
Yes, now I get you. Yes.
You know, like these things happened to me. Like I didn't create it, you know, but when I went through my healing journey and really started to look at my part to play, I started to understand that in many ways I did create a lot of stuff because it was stuff that was embedded into me, beliefs about myself. It wasn't consciously creating, and that's maybe the part that gets confusing. I wasn't consciously choosing to create those things, but because certain things happened in my life and I held onto them in my body, then my energy was, you know, holding those things, and then I was creating it. So I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's nothing to blame.
Not at all.
It's not the blame. So make sure that you take the blame out from there.
Exactly.
Is you do anyway. So it's just because you are not aware, that's a doing anyway. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not actually anybody's fault. It's just the way that we're set up. And, you know, that's the journey, is discovering all of the things. And not, I used to be very hard on myself about things, but now I've come to this point where I'm like, oh, well, you know, I'm aware of it now, so I can change it. So that's good enough, you know? And like, there's no such thing really as regret, because you didn't know back then what you know now.
Yes.
And from now, there is only really now anyway.
Yeah.
It's only now.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
We don't have any other time other than now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to the sacral. So if this is blocked, I see a lot of the time when it's blocked with people, they come to me for Reiki and they say, I feel stuck.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel stuck. And they just feel stagnant. They're not really sure what to do. A lot of the time it can be got to do with trapped emotions.
Okay.
And I see that a lot when they're feeling stuck, and then just getting that energy to move, releasing it, you just feel like you can flow again and the energy is flowing.
And what color is this?
So this one's orange.
Orange.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So going up.
So the next one is the solar plexus. So this one's just under your ribs. This one's got to do with your personal power. So if it's blocked, it can be that there's repressed anger, or it could also be worry and anxiety. So, you know, when it's so interesting, because energy really, people, when you start to look into it, you'll start to see that it is so physical as well. Because when people worry a lot, they end up with IBS.
Yes.
And there's many issues with the stomach then, because it's all blocked up inside and here in the stomach. So it can be got to do with decision making, and, you know, like the affirmation for it is like, I do. So I do this with my life.
Yes,
and, you know, if we're not able to make decisions, it can be because we're just blocked up inside and here. And, you know, I think anger is something that a lot of us really struggle with experiencing, especially as women, I feel. You know, for me, I never really knew how to get angry. I only learned a couple of years ago. Imagine I had to learn how to get angry, because I didn't think I was allowed to get angry about things. I used to just stuff it inside. And then when I started learning how to experience it, like how powerful an emotion that is, you know, like you can really create from anger as well. And I'm not saying that you need to go and be angry with everybody, but it's just that if you can allow the anger to come through you and learn from it, like when we allow emotions, we can learn from them, and then they can show us something that maybe, you know, maybe you get angry because somebody crossed a boundary, but you didn't know you had a boundary there, but the anger showed you.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
This kind of stuff.
That's very interesting. Yeah, emotions came a lot in my chats previously, and I think it's important to state that there is no wrong emotion.
Not at all.
Or negative emotion. I know we kind of label them as a negative because they are low vibration.
Yeah.
But they always are there to be let out.
And I think it's only really a low vibration. So this just popped in my head now when you said that. I think it's only really a low vibration if we're holding on to it and we're consistently acting out of that emotion. Like, for example, they say, like, when you experience an emotion, that's just the emotion, but then if you keep acting like that, then it becomes your behavior, and eventually it just becomes your personality. So if you're constantly angry, but you're not like allowing yourself to learn from it, and you're just staying angry, then I think it's a low vibration. But I think if you just experience anger just as it is,
that's very good perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
So
I get it,
I
but yeah, exactly. I got it, but I want to make sure that the people who are listening and watching, they are getting it, because I think it's very important to put things in the right perspective.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rewind. So anger or any kind of emotion, I really believe it comes there to teach you something. So it comes up, and then when you experience the emotion, then you learn from it. You could experience it within a couple of days or something. It's there normally to teach you. But if you don't express it, or you don't learn how to deal with it in a healthy way, then over time you just start to become an angry person. And if you don't, work on healing that anger within you over time, that just becomes your personality. And then I believe that's when it's a low vibration. So I don't think experiencing the emotion just itself in that moment is bad. I think it's just when you're holding on to it over a longer period of time. The interesting thing is that, also in each of the areas of the chakras are also the organs, and behind is your liver. And when people drink a lot, the way they get really angry and aggressive, it's because anger is in the liver.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how every emotion is connected to an organ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very interesting, because even a few months ago, I went to go for a healing session myself, and I was told that I had a lot of trapped emotions in my womb. And I was told I had a lot of anger and resentment, like in my solar plexus as well. But I was like, what are they talking about? I'm not an angry person. But I did have anger trapped inside me, but your mind tends to distract you. So my mind was like, what are you talking about? I don't have anger. But actually in my body, I did have anger that I hadn't experienced or allowed through. And so I went through a process of learning. I had to make a list of all the people who hurt me in my life and write them letters and let it out. Because a lot of the time with narcissistic relationships, you don't get much closure. So you kind of have to give yourself closure. And I think I still had a lot trapped up inside that I hadn't really fully processed. So it's interesting when you're talking about vibration, because you see those things were trapped inside of me. So that was actually creating how I felt about myself, what I deserved. It was creating what kind of experiences I was allowing in my life, I was going to say creating, but I wasn't consciously creating. It was more allowing. And it's not until I went to heal those things that now I actually know how to set boundaries, because I know what I want and what I don't want.
Yes.
But I couldn't do that when these things were trapped in me. So that was affecting my vibration.
Yeah, exactly. So here is your example there.
Yeah, exactly. So we come full circle there.
Good. Yeah, exactly. And this is color?
So this is yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah, so yellow like the sun, power.
The sun, yeah.
So, also when you think of Superman or Wonder Woman, they kind of stand with their arms back and their chest out. And then that's you're standing in your center of gravity and your power. Yeah. Also another interesting thing that just popped in my head there, a lot of the time people walk, but they're walking with their shoulders and their head. If you actually start to walk with your hips, you'll feel a lot more confident.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very powerful, because it's also bringing you, because your center of gravity is in the center of your body.
Yeah,
the solar plexus as well. So if you're going to be standing in that center of gravity, it's going to be less likely that you'll fall and hurt yourself, and you're just going to walk more confident. People will perceive you as more confident as well. It's amazing.
So a little tip.
A little tip
for confidence. Bring your shoulders back.
Shoulders back, and just walking with your hips.
Yeah, very good.
Being in your body. And then you feel more grounded then as well. So the next one is the heart. So this is around your heart area in your chest. It's got to do with love, compassion, empathy, forgiveness.
Okay.
And not just towards other people, but believe it or not, towards yourself.
I think that's where forgiveness should start, if I can say should there.
Yeah.
But I think that's the place where forgiveness has its start.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. I think for me, my journey, I was always I was able to understand and forgive others before I was able to do it for myself. That was my process. But definitely, I think self-forgiveness is the most important.
Do you think it's harder? it's easier to give it to others and then
I think it depends on the person. I think it
Okay.
depends on the person. Because I grew up as an empath and codependent, people pleaser, I was always very good at seeing. I could see in others why they were the way they were. You know, I remember with my ex, and he wasn't good to me at all. But like I remember looking at him and thinking, I know why you're that way. Like your mother treated you like this, so you think this is normal. You know, like this is the
Yeah.
way you grew up. And I was able to see it in others before I could see it in myself. And I don't know if that's just me. That's just the way I look at
I
the
think
world.
that's the normal.
Yeah.
We are able to see in others first. And
Yeah.
usually what we see in others is a reflection of ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like I feel like I learn from others. I even with my clients when they come to me with stuff, a lot of the time they're coming to me with things and asking me questions, and then I figure out the answer to the thing I was looking for, and
That's
I'm
the
like,
norm,
thanks
like,
for asking.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we do learn very well from other people, especially if we choose to, and we choose to see it as a learning experience. Sometimes it can be harder when a person is very challenging and you feel like, I'm not like that. But when you start to
Yes.
really look at it, I've become really into journaling, using journaling prompts. Not just like me writing my thoughts, but having like thought-provoking
journaling,
questions.
Yeah.
And I give it to all my clients now as well. And it's very helpful because it just helps you to see the things which are, you know, hidden behind the veil that you're trying to avoid. So the heart.
And this is red, I guess.
No, the heart is green.
Oh, the heart is green.
Yeah, some people depict it as pink.
The red was the
Yeah.
sacral.
Yeah.
No, the sacral.
The red was the root.
The roots.
Then orange is the sacral. Yellow is the solar plexus. Green is the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see we're building up a rainbow here.
Yes, exactly.
Because we're made of light. Fractions of light.
Visual.
So the heart then is got to do with love. And you know, what I've seen a lot is in my own life and with other people that when we get hurt, we put walls around our heart.
Mm-hmm.
And we do this as a protective mechanism because we want to protect ourselves from getting hurt. But a lot of the time we end up protecting ourselves from the good as well.
Yeah.
You know, because if we're so focused on hiding from the bad, we're not actually seeing the good things that are happening. And this was what happened with me for a long time, you know. Gratitude is very important, you know, because we actually have a lot to be grateful for, but we forget. We really forget because there's so much that we don't have, you know, so much that we want to have.
Yeah.
But when you really sit and think about it, we are actually so blessed, you know, even to be healthy, to be able to speak, to be able to be here.
So many things what we take for granted, really.
So many things, especially living in Ireland. Like, I mean, we have so much to be grateful for. Like, I traveled a lot and I saw a lot around the world and a lot of the struggles that people have. And even like, you know, in places like Africa, when they struggle a lot and then they are just so happy. In Asia as well, you know, there's a lot of places that people just kind of appreciate what they have. And then we're in the Western world, we're very like, I need more. And I had this for a long time where I was just like, I felt like I didn't have enough. And I was always trying to get more. And it's such an empty pursuit.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You know, you're kind of always wanting more, you're not getting there. But coming back to the heart, so people put walls around themselves. Another thing that can be very heavy in the heart is grief.
Mm-hmm.
And grief is very challenging because we don't really know how to deal with it. There's not really...
I think we don't really know what it is.
That's a good way to put it, because I was going to be like, don't ask me to explain it. Because I don't think we know what it is.
Okay, let's try with our abilities at this moment.
Yeah, so
usually people are, let me help you.
Yeah.
Usually people are associating grief with a death, a loss.
It can be a loss of somebody's life, or it can be a loss of something else.
Mm-hmm. That's what we miss, I think. That's people, we usually miss that. Like, I wasn't aware myself until recently that I'm actually grieving the love what I didn't have as a child.
Oh my God, yeah. And I've even grieved, you know, I remember there was this one particular person who I was madly in love with, and they did not feel the same about me. And that was also grief. Like, I had to grieve this whole fantasy I had in my head, you know. I had to grieve the thing that wasn't real. And that's also very challenging. So there's grief in many ways, you know.
Yeah, that's
it's very complex.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to let it go, because I think it's so important. We will probably I trust the universe will bring someone who is comfortable talking in depth and bring more wisdom. But at this level, I think we kind of brought a little bit of light.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. I was watching a talk from this leading grief expert. I can't think of his name right now, but I will try to find it and send it to you. So he was talking about, you know, when we go into pain and grief, we normally try to run away from it. We don't want to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
But he had been the only person that studied buffaloes. And he said that buffaloes, when there's a thunderstorm, they're the only animal that will go towards the thunderstorm because they know when they go into the thunderstorm, they'll be out of it quicker.
Wow.
That's nice, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not saying that anybody has to push themselves through anything, but it is important to face things at the end, you know, like in whatever way and in whatever time we're meant to do that.
And unfortunately, I have a dear friend of mine in mind when I say that. I sent her love. She got stuck into the grief, and I feel like so sorry. All I can hold space for her, I feel, but it's not my journey. But I feel so sorry kind of for her that she can't move from that place. It was a huge loss. Now I don't underestimate the grief.
Yeah.
But it takes so much and so many lives after a dear person passed, because you are not able to move out from the grief.
Yeah, and I mean, you can also get frozen in time.
Yeah.
That's what happened when I had the trauma response. Like I felt like as if I was frozen in time, and like I kept comparing to my past instead of being in the present. And that can happen in many different ways, you know, like for example with the grief, where we can just get stuck. And it's very hard that it's kind of like our body is stuck there.
What organs are showing up as when the heart chakra is blocked?
I would say mostly in the heart and the lungs. The lungs hold a lot of grief.
Okay.
So I actually had a lady once, and she told me I could tell everybody this story. So it's a very cool story.
Oh, very good.
So she came, a lot of people.
We love stories.
Right. A lot of people, when they come to me for Reiki, they tell me what's going on, and then some people don't tell me anything because they want to, you know, they want to see.
Yeah.
Skeptics.
Oh, okay.
They want to see what I know. And so this one lady came anyway, and you know, she'd been through quite a lot of challenges in recent times in her life, and you know, she felt stuck, and she wanted to process what was going on. And so we did the Reiki session anyway, and you know, after the Reiki session, she said to me, "Oh my God, I can breathe." And I was like, what do you mean you can breathe? You know, I wasn't aware that you couldn't.
Yeah.
And so she said to me that she was only able to breathe down like half of her chest, and she thought it was because she smoked a lot. And so anyway, I was like, interesting. I said, you know, grief, it stays in your lungs, so maybe it's something got to do with that. And so she went away anyway, and the following week she came back to me, and she said that she couldn't believe it, that, you know, she was in her 60s at this stage. He was 64. And she said that, you know, she thought the reason that the grief was there was because of recent things that had been going on. You know, there was like divorce and some other challenging things in her life. And so anyway, in this week that we had been apart, she discovered what it was her mother had died when she was 5, 59 years ago, and she'd never been able to process it.
Wow.
And that's why she couldn't breathe, because it was still there in her lungs.
Wow.
And it was the time for it to come up.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Amazing. Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah.
She was like, you need to tell everybody about this.
Yes.
I was like, definitely.
And that's actually very powerful, that people, it happens a lot when you heal, you kind of want to liberate everyone else who is going through the same experience, and you want to share. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was very profound. I was mind blown. I was like, wow, 59 years ago. That is fascinating, you know. And there's a lot of things that we tend to do that we're not aware that we're doing. Like I had another client, and he kept getting reminders of his auntie everywhere, and he, you know, she had died many years ago, and he was like, I just can't stop it. It's driving me nuts. And then I said to him after the session, you know, maybe at the time you promised that you'd never forget her. So now your mind just keeps reminding you of her all the time. And so I said to him, maybe you just write her a letter and tell her, you know, I'm ready to, kind of release this. I don't want to think about it all the time. It's not that I forget you at all, but I can't think about it every day. And so he did that and it helped him. It completely changed everything. So it's amazing. We make promises to ourselves, we trap things and we're not aware of it. And maybe it's been so long that we don't even know when it happened.
I think our role as coaches or practitioners or healers, or call it like someone who you are going to get support from.
Yeah.
That's our role, to shine that light or to guide someone to see themselves.
Do you know what I think our role is?
Tell us.
I saw something before and it said, first of all, the ability and the power to be able to make somebody feel safe is one of the most under-acknowledged superpowers. To make somebody feel safe is very powerful. So that's one thing. And then another thing, a lot of people heal more from being heard and being listened to than being given advice. So even just sitting and having a non-judgmental ear and like just presence for somebody is more healing than anything else. And I really believe that's the purpose.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough how important is that.
Yeah. And a lot of my clients say that, they're like, oh, thanks so much for listening to me. Not many people, I can't talk about this with many people.
You are so right. Because the most common phrase, what I hear from my clients is, I was able to express myself and not feeling judged.
Yeah. It's so, but a lot of the time when people judge you, it's not even their fault either. It's just their own projections and their own wounds.
Exactly.
And they're not actually, they don't have the capacity.
And you made me to feel that I'm normal. Of course, like your normal is normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, totally normal, there's actually nothing wrong with it. Even, I used to feel bad when I would see some of this. I would get very triggered when I saw things about being a people pleaser. But just so you know, it's just a pattern.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
nothing wrong with you.
But again, because we had the same feelings as children, both of us.
Yeah.
Only for that, we are probably relate faster and more to people who can't express themselves because we understand what was like not to be able to express ourselves.
Exactly. And I think that's why a lot of people who are healers and who work in this type of space, they've been through a lot because then they understand. And that's why I feel like all this stuff happened in my life so that I could go on this journey, so that I could be the person that I've become now. Like people were saying like, oh, you have a gift. I'm like, I don't know. I feel I've just become this person from the experiences and it's maybe that was what I was always meant to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it was maybe it was planted there when I was a child. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I'm going back to what I said. I think you choose that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I could have chosen to decide, everything happens to me. I'm just going to bury my head in the sand.
Totally.
And I'm just going to, blame everybody else. And I went through phases of doing that, definitely. But I also...
And you will probably still do at some point.
Yeah.
And probably will be days when you say, why I'm doing this? It's too much. And that's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are not perfect.
What I found though, if anybody does feel like they want to work through these kind of things, the best thing that I've ever done, and it's very simple, is just everything that happens, ask yourself, what am I meant to learn from this?
Thank you for saying that.
That's
the best.
Only thing that you need to do.
Best.
If you do that, it'll be amazing how much your life will change, because that's how I changed my life. Looking at, when somebody makes me angry. But why do they make me angry? And a lot of the time, it's stuff that I'm doing that I'm not allowing myself to see. Or, feeling jealous of somebody, but I'm just jealous of them because I want to do what they're doing and they're confident enough to do it. But that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's just that I feel like I want to do it, and that kind of stuff. Because they say when you're pointing at one finger, you got three pointing back at you.
Okay, so we were in the heart, and we have two more, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, also, I would like to say, so the first three are kind of like what they call the 3D reality. Like they all got to do with your life, and you're kind of in your body and your reality that you're living now. And then the heart is like the bridge.
Okay.
So if you could see a picture of our energy field, there's actually like, the infinity symbol. It's like coming around your heart. Your heart is extremely powerful. Like it's a huge electromagnetic field. So when you come from your heart, it affects so much around you.
Yes.
So that's why opening the heart is extremely important. So it's the bridge. And then the bridge comes up to, then you go to your throat. So this has got to do with expressing yourself. Who knew?
Yes, exactly.
Where your voice box is when you're suppressing your emotions. And
nothing is by accident. Everything is accidentally. I was looking for.
Yeah. There's so much. There's so much like wisdom and depth to all of it. It's fascinating. So your throat has got to do with expressing yourself, but it's got to do with truth as well. So telling the truth and being authentic. So if we're not open in our hearts, then we can't really speak our authentic selves and really come from our heart. When they're both open, then you can be extremely powerful because you're coming from the heart. So the throat is, it's got to do with your purpose as well. And when we're not speaking up for ourselves, if we're not saying the things we're meant to say, if we're not speaking it out, then it just gets trapped inside. And then if that's getting trapped, the energy's not flowing. Something I'd like to also mention about this is that, sometimes you need to express yourself, but it doesn't always mean that you need to say it to the person. So for example, if you had like a really difficult situation happen with somebody, maybe somebody was violent or something in your life, and you have that trapped inside you, but you can't speak about it, you don't have to go and speak to that person, You can also just express it in another way. People write beautiful songs, poetry, even just writing a letter to the person and saying what you really feel like you needed to get off your chest.
Yes.
Get it out.
Yeah.
That would really make a huge difference. And just sometimes like we hold on to things. I remember there was a guy when I was in school and I was only like 13 or something, and he said something about how another girl was prettier than me. Right? And I held on to this for years, only until this year I finally let it go. Like, so 20 years.
Yeah.
It would pop up every time something happened that I felt insecure. It would pop up and remember that he said this.
Yeah.
And like this guy definitely didn't remember that. Like there was no maliciousness in it at all.
It was the meaning what you put in.
It was the meaning that I created and I held on to it. And that's another example of like holding things, and then I had to write letters and I just wrote down all of these different things I wrote. I had like a whole template where I'd be like, hey, blah, blah, blah. You hurt me when you did this. The reason it did was it made me feel like this. What I learned from it was this,
Yes, exactly.
And now I want to let it go because of this,
Yeah.
And that really helped me a lot because I was never good at expressing myself. And I found the more I've let these things from the past out, it makes it easier to do it now. I wouldn't say I'm fully there. I'm getting there every day and getting better at it. But if you've got a lot of stuff from the past that hasn't been said, it's very hard to say things now. It's like, well, I didn't say it before. Why would I start now?
Yeah.
So it's like clearing out those things so you have more space, because we're allowed to have space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're allowed to express ourselves.
Yes, exactly. That's a beautiful resource to have.
It is. It definitely
is. And that increases our energy, our capacity of nervous system to be more regulated and
definitely
to grow
100%.
Because if you have space, you grow. If you keep the container small, you can't.
And that's interesting as well. So expressing who you really are, because I was thinking about it one day. Imagine that there's like a bunch of blocks, and this is a very weird analogy, but imagine there's a bunch of blocks and there's one space. That's your space, but you're trying to fit in over here.
Yeah.
There's other space, but there's no space over there. Yeah. But if you just became who you really are, there's a space for you. There's only, I was thinking about this the other day,
that's
right?
Beautiful.
So imagine there's billions of people that already came and billions of people that will come, but there's only one Smaranda.
Yeah.
There's only one. So you got to be the best you that you can be. You know why? Because nobody else can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody else can do it, only you.
Yeah.
That's your job. That's your only job.
Yeah.
Just be you.
I kind of own that, really.
Yeah, you definitely do. You do. But yeah, I was just using it as an example for anybody
but that makes a lot
there,
of sense. I was just thinking, okay, I got that message previously, so yeah.
Yeah, and so like really...
I think, thank you. I just realized that. I got that message when it was the moment when I started to choose me.
Yeah, there you go.
Because that was the moment when I said, okay, Smaranda, was like I heard a voice telling me, you only have one life.
Yeah.
And you are only one. And don't make a ball out of this, because you're not going to get again.
You're not. And like, think about it this way. When you go to die, I know it's a bit morbid, but like when you're going to die, are you going to regret?
I love talking about that.
Yeah, okay, me too. Okay. Like not everybody does.
I know.
But I think I'm not scared of death, because I just feel like, it's just a transition. I'm not really worried about that aspect of it. But like I do think that, I was watching something the other day about carefree authenticity, and they said, like, imagine you were going to die in 7 days. Would you be doing the things you're doing now? Would you?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Not many people would say that,
I
I'd
know.
say. And if you're not, then what do you want to do? Because at the end, like, we might only have 7 days left. You don't know. You literally don't know. So it's really important for us to just figure out, like, what do we want? Because, society makes you feel like you're all meant to be this, everybody's meant to be the same, and everybody's getting surgery to look the same, and everybody's dressing the same, and we all want to be like the Kardashians or whatever. But at the end, you're unique, and there's a purpose for your existence, and there is space for that, and there's a reason for it. I love watching those golden buzzer moments on do you ever watch America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent?
I don't. I'm not watching telly unless I'm watching something on Netflix that I want to watch or something like that. So
Well, I love.
I mean, I poison myself with social media. Let's put it.
Yeah. Well, I only watch the golden buzzer moments because they're really, really powerful, because it's always like people who have been through a lot of stuff, and then they're like, I'm taking a stand. I'm just going to be me, and then they do something amazing, and you're like, wow, like. It's very inspiring to me, so I love watching them. It's always very emotional. It makes me so happy.
Very good. I like that. So quick to the last one.
So then there's a third eye. So this is like an eye on people's forehead that you might have seen. So it's actually the pineal gland in your brain. And this has got to do with seeing things clearly. So it's very interesting when you say that. So, a lot of the time we live in illusions. So we're living in illusions thinking like, I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me, or I can't do that, or whatever the illusion is. If it's not true across the board for everybody, then it's not true.
Yeah.
It's an illusion, and we live within these constraints of these illusions, and that's what creates what we can see. We can only see how far our bandwidth can go.
Yeah.
So when we can clear out the illusions, then we can see things more clearly from a higher perspective, like from a higher vibration. So that's why the third eye is very powerful. It's got to do with your intuition as well. So intuitively seeing the truth of things. A lot of people I have for Reiki, they can see colors when I'm working on their third eye.
Really?
I forgot to mention that the throat is blue, and so the third eye is indigo.
Intuitively, I said that's blue. Like I
you
didn't
did,
really remember what I said.
You did say it, actually. So, and then I'll go to the final one, because I don't know if we have much time. So the top one is the crown. And this one is got to do with understanding and being connected to a higher power. So whether you want to call that higher power your higher self, you want to call it God, you want to call it the universe. There's many different things that people call it, but it's all kind of the same thing. So it's like where the energy is coming from the universe. It comes down through the crown and down through the body.
Yes. Yeah. So it's where things are kind of starting to connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, this is like how the energy can flow through your body. A lot of the time people feel, if they feel depressed, they might actually have this blocked. They feel like there's nothing there for them. They're so disconnected. They don't feel connected to anything. That's when this is blocked. When you feel more connected and you're like, everything is me.
Yes.
That's when it's more open. And you sometimes you might feel kind of pressure and kind of tapping on the top of your head, or like, even tightness on the top of your head. It's all got to do with your crown chakra.
Okay.
Yeah. So you might experience that a lot in Reiki sessions.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for such a beautiful description. And I'm going to say something because I sensed that and I heard that message. So this podcast is going to be something very unique for everyone. For me, it's a unique experience as a host. For my guests, they all ask me to tell them the questions before and I don't, because I am kind of a vessel and I leave the flow to flow. And what I sense now that if you hear this message and you relate and you like, click subscribe, like the post is on social media, because people who are putting those things out there, and I'm going to make this clear. So people who are making the effort, who make those things, they really relate to a click what is there, a like what is there. Not that we are looking for and we relate ourselves to the click, but I want to make sure that you know out there that if you like, the fact that you just press that click button and like button tells me that you appreciate us. And sometimes makes such a difference in our lives because we are humans and we are expecting to be seen.
And I'd also say not even just appreciating, but it helps you to know that you're doing a good job. You
Exactly.
know? That, people want to hear what you're talking about because, yeah, we're humans as well. I've struggled a lot with self-doubt and like I put something out and then I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe I should stop
And people
now.
think, oh yeah, like why should I do that? Doesn't matter because they are doing anyway or she's doing anyway. But it does matter. And I want people to understand that it does matter.
I think also it does. Like, for example, when I started my business, I asked a lot of people to write reviews for me. I was like, after would you like to leave a review so other people will know? And it's the same with the likes, when other people see that this has been watched or shared, then they're like, oh, I can check it out. So it just helps to spread the message. So it's like you're part of spreading the message.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you guys out there for doing that.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you for being with me. Before I let you go, shoot me with a question.
Oh, a question. So where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Oh, God. Physically or with my work and my energy or both?
I think whatever you feel intuitively called to answer.
Okay, so I'm seeing myself doing a lot of work in the field, what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And that's health. And health, not only physical, mental, emotional, spreading the understanding of ourselves and our nature. I don't see myself retiring at all. Like, I don't see, that concept is, I don't know, doesn't exist. So I think I'm going as long as I will be physically able, I will be always there. I make plans, but I don't think I can relate much to the future. I prefer to live in now.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm a little bit struggling in that direction. I dream to retire in Alps, if that makes sense. I don't know if that will be in 5 years or 10 years, but that's my dream, to be connected to the nature, to see the sky. Beautiful. And to have green and water around me.
I think you can have it. You can definitely have it.
Yeah.
And also the retirement thing, I think, is it's a construct. Like it's something that has been constructed that we're meant to do because we worked in jobs. But look at Louise Hay. I love Louise Hay.
Retiring, that's what I'm saying. Physically, I can move from Ireland to Alps or whatever. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop promoting what I'm promoting and the health and the bringing the message out there. Probably I will write more or I will do more podcasts or whatever, but definitely not. I don't think I'm meant to stop bringing the message in the world.
So would you say this is just the beginning?
Yes, definitely.
Beautiful.
The journey.
Beautiful.
I'm only 2 years old, so I'm a baby.
We got so much time. Age is only a number. It's not even
exactly.
It's not even based.
Also, where people can find you and how they can benefit from your gifts.
Amazing. So I am in Limerick on Cecil Street. So if you've ever heard of the Grove Kitchen, that's the vegetarian kitchen in Limerick. I'm right above there. It's near to the Rugby Museum. So my business is called Living Reiki Coaching. And you can find me on Facebook with that. You can find me on Instagram with that. And my website is livingreikicoaching.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
and you
you
can check out my
so
reviews
much.
there.
Yes, on Google. Yeah.
I'm also happy to have chats with people before we go through a session as well. If they want to ask me anything and feel like we're a good fit, I'm happy to do that too. And I will be launching from now. Keep an eye on my Instagram because from now I'm teaching. I'm
Wow.
not just doing any type of content. I'm teaching everything that I've learned. That's what's going to be happening on my
Okay.
Instagram.
And
I'm starting TikTok too.
I kind of wanted to shout that question because I was watching the time and I said, but I'm going to say no. So you are going to teach people to do Reiki on themselves.
Well, actually, what I'm teaching about is the empath journey and
the
how
empath
to
journey.
heal
Okay.
if you struggle with codependency, if you struggle with getting into narcissistic relationships, if you struggle with, energy vampires, energy overwhelm, people pleasing, all of that kind
So
of
the
stuff.
patterns, what you
all the patterns and things that I learned from, and I'm expanding more into my coaching. So I'm doing the Reiki still, but I'm connecting coaching and Reiki now together so that I can. That was what I felt was my original thing I was meant to make that impact, because that was the journey I went through. So
yes,
I'm turning it into my
you're
purpose
listening.
now.
Perfect. Brilliant. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I was really grateful to be here, and thank you to
everybody.
It was a joy
having you. Thank you.
Thank you.